Most people believe that power originates from money, connections, or exceptional talent. They're wrong. The real power, the kind that changes the world, comes from understanding what others can't see and doing what others can't do. Today, I'm going to show you the darker side of that power, the side that, once you see it, you'll never be the same again. When I was building Apple, I learned something that most people will never understand. You can lose control of almost everything. The deadlines, the suppliers, the market conditions. But the one thing you can never afford to lose is control of the vision, because vision is the compass. It's the thing that keeps you moving forward when the terrain is unpredictable and the map doesn't exist yet. If you lose that, you're just drifting, and the world will decide for you where you end up. Here's the truth: most people think leadership is about managing every little piece of the process. They obsess over the how. They want to control every meeting, every decision, every timeline. But the real leaders, the ones who change the world, don't suffocate themselves with micromanagement. They control something much bigger: the story of where they're going, the end picture. The why is so clear that even if you strip away the process, the destination remains inevitable. When we were designing the first Macintosh, nothing was going according to plan. The technology wasn't ready, the deadlines were unrealistic, and the team was under pressure. People said it couldn't be done. If I had tried to control every single circuit, every single line of code, I would have burned out in weeks. Instead, I obsessed over the bigger picture, a computer so intuitive and beautiful that a child could use it. I kept repeating that vision until it infected the team. It became so deeply embedded in their minds that every obstacle, every late night, every impossible problem became just another step toward that picture we could all see in our heads. That's the thing. The process will almost always betray you. Technology will fail. Markets will shift. People will leave. But if you've built a vision that is so clear it feels inevitable, then the process can bend and adapt without destroying you. You can improvise your way there, because you never lose sight of what there actually looks like. Think about it like this. Imagine you're building a cathedral. Most people get lost in the bricks and the mortar, thinking their job is to lay each one perfectly. But the great builders, they can close their eyes and see the finished cathedral in perfect detail. They can walk through it in their mind, feel the sunlight through the stained glass, and hear the echo of footsteps on the stone floor. And because they see it so clearly, they inspire everyone else to keep building, even when the scaffolding collapses or the budget runs out. This is not easy. People will constantly try to pull you into the weeds, into the small daily battles. They'll ask you to compromise the vision because it's faster, cheaper, and safer. And here's where most leaders break. They trade long-term vision for short-term relief. They settle for good enough because the pressure feels unbearable. But the cost of that compromise is that you become forgettable. You stop building something extraordinary and start managing something ordinary. When you hold the vision, you become the gravitational force that pulls everything else into alignment. People will call you stubborn. They'll say you're unreasonable. That's good. Unreasonable people are the ones who create progress. The reasonable ones just adapt to the world as it is. If I had listened to every reasonable voice around me, the iPhone would have been a slightly better BlackBerry, not a revolution in how humans connect with technology. There's also something else. Controlling the vision doesn't just inspire your team. It scares your competition. Because when you make the end game look inevitable, it doesn't matter if you're behind in the process. They start to believe you'll get there first, and that belief forces them to react to you, instead of the other way around. They start playing your game on your terms. That's real power, the power to shape not just your path, but the entire landscape around you. So how do you keep that control? You talk about the vision every day. You show it, you repeat it, you live it. It's not a poster on the wall. It's in the way you make decisions, in the way you reject compromises, in the way you demand excellence even when everyone's exhausted. You have to make it so real that people can feel it, not just hear it. You have to make it so magnetic that even when the process falls apart, the vision pulls everyone back together again. That's how you lead through chaos. That's how you build something that survives the storms. Not by controlling every wave, but by steering the ship toward the shore you can already see in your mind. Hold that vision so tightly that the world bends around it. Everything else can break. That cannot. When people talk about me, they often mention something called the reality distortion field. They make it sound like some mythical power I stumbled upon. But it wasn't an accident. It was intentional. It was a tool. And it's one of the most powerful tools you can ever master, if you're willing to use it. The reality distortion field is simple to understand, but almost impossible for most people to practice. It's the ability to make people believe something is possible before it is. And here's the twist. Once they believe it, it becomes possible. Most people live inside the prison of what they've already seen, what they've already done, and what the world has told them is realistic. They think the future has to be a slightly better version of today. That's why most products, most companies, most ideas are just incremental improvements. But if you can get people to believe in something bigger, something they can't touch yet, you can pull them out of that prison. You can take them somewhere they didn't think they could go. When we were building the first iPhone, there were 100 reasons why it shouldn't have worked. The technology wasn't ready. The battery life was terrible. The touchscreen was unproven, and no one had ever put all those features into one device before. If we had told ourselves the truth, as most people define it, that it was impossible, we never would have tried. So I didn't tell the team the truth they saw. I told them the truth I wanted to exist. I told them it was going to work. I told them we were already close. I made them believe we were building the future, not struggling in the present. And once they believed that, they started behaving like it was true. This isn't lying. This isn't blind optimism. This is about holding a vision so strongly in your mind that you infect others with it. People are emotional before they are rational. If you try to convince them with data alone, they'll find holes in it. If you convince them with belief, they'll find reasons to make it happen. That's the difference between leaders who inspire and leaders who manage. Managers explain reality as it is. Leaders distort reality into what it should be, and then drag it into existence. But here's the darker side. If you can bend reality for others, you can also bend it for yourself. That's dangerous because it means you have to live in two worlds at once. One is the world that exists today, full of problems and constraints. The other is the world you're creating, where none of those limits apply. You have to be able to switch between them without getting lost. If you live too much in the dream, you become delusional. If you live too much in the present, you become ordinary. The power is in holding both realities in your head and using one to transform the other. A lot of people are uncomfortable with this because it feels manipulative, and in a way, it is. You're asking people to suspend their disbelief, to invest in something that hasn't happened yet. That takes trust, and if you abuse it, you'll destroy everything. But if you honor it, if you use that belief to deliver, then you can take people to places they never would have gone without you. Think about every great invention, every leap forward in history. Someone had to believe in it before it was real. The Wright brothers believed in flight before they left the ground. Elon Musk believed in reusable rockets before anyone saw one land. I believed in 1,000 songs in your pocket before there was an iPod. In each case, the belief came first. The reality came second. That's the formula. You bend reality with belief, then you harden it with execution. Most people wait for proof before they commit. But proof is slow. By the time you have proof, you're already too late. The market has moved. The opportunity has passed. The reality distortion field is about moving before proof, before safety, before certainty. It's about making others so convinced that they stop waiting and start building. And here's what's fascinating. Once people commit under the influence of that belief, they start creating proof themselves. They work harder. They get more creative. They stop seeing obstacles and start seeing solutions. Their brains stop asking, "Can we?" and start asking, "How do we?" That's when you know you've pulled them into the field. That's when you know reality has started to bend. If you want to master this, you can't just speak about the future. You have to embody it. Every word, every decision, every move you make has to be aligned with the reality you're creating. People are watching you constantly, searching for signs that you believe your own vision. If you flinch, if you doubt, if you send mixed signals, the field collapses. But if you hold it steady, even when everything is breaking behind the scenes, the field stays intact and people will keep following you right into the impossible. The world doesn't change because of what's real. It changes because of what people are willing to believe is real. If you can master that, you can make the impossible happen on demand. If you're going to try to change anything, a market, a technology, the way people live, you will hear the word no more times than you can count. And every time you hear it, you're going to feel the same thing, that small sting in your chest, that flicker of doubt in your mind. That's normal. What's not normal is what you do next. Most people hear no and take it as a stop sign. I hear no and see ammunition. When I was fired from Apple in 1985, there were people who thought that was the end of my story. The headlines painted me as overhyped, arrogant, finished. And for a moment, I believed them. Then I realized this wasn't a burial. It was a forge. That rejection was heat, pressure, a chance to burn away the weakness, the complacency, and come back sharper. Without that no, there's a good chance Apple would have died before the iPod, before the iPhone, before any of the things people remember today. Here's what most people don't understand: rejection contains energy. Raw, unfiltered energy. When someone tells you you're not good enough, what they're doing is handing you a weapon. Most people drop it because it's heavy and it hurts to carry. But if you pick it up and aim it, it can break through walls that talent alone can't touch. When someone doubts you, they're giving you an outline of what they think you can't do. That's priceless information. It's a blueprint for where you can hit them hardest. When people told me no one would want a phone without a keyboard, I didn't argue with them. I let them keep talking, keep writing articles, keep laughing. Then I built it. And when it worked, their own words made the impact louder. Every no I got before launch made the ayes from the market thunder through the industry. The trick is to stop seeing rejection as personal and start seeing it as directional. It's not a reflection of your worth. It's a signpost showing you where the challenge is. And the challenge is where the growth is. If people say your idea is too risky, that's where the breakthrough lies. If they say it's impossible, that's where the magic is hiding. The louder the no, the bigger the opportunity behind it. But let's be honest. Turning rejection into fuel isn't comfortable. It requires you to hold on to pain, without letting it poison you. It means remembering the names of the people who laughed at you, not to get revenge, but to make sure their disbelief becomes the echo behind every victory. That's not about spite. That's about momentum. The energy you need to keep going when every reasonable part of you wants to quit. When I started NextT after leaving Apple, the world didn't care. Investors weren't rushing in. The media barely paid attention. The no's were quieter, but they were there, disguised as indifference. And I learned something important. Silence can be a rejection too. The absence of enthusiasm can kill more dreams than outright criticism. But if you can generate your momentum in that silence, if you can keep building without applause, then when the breakthrough comes, it hits like a lightning strike. That's why you have to train yourself to crave the no's. They mean you're onto something that scares people. People don't reject what they fully understand. They reject what threatens the way things are. If you hear too many yeses early on, it means your idea is safe, and safe ideas don't change the world. Here's the darker truth: rejection tests your identity. Anyone can keep going when the world is nodding along. But when it's shaking its head, when the doors are slamming, when you can feel the weight of 1,000 doubts pressing on your chest, that's when you find out who you are. That's when you find out if your vision is strong enough to carry you or if it collapses under pressure. And that's exactly why the no is valuable. It forces you to harden your idea until it can't be broken. So the next time someone tells you no, don't waste energy arguing. Don't beg for their approval. Just remember their face, their voice, their exact words. Put them in a box in your mind and label it fuel. Then get back to work. Every late night, every experiment, every tiny step forward. You're loading that fuel into a rocket, and when you finally launch, you're going to fly right past them, powered in part by their disbelief. You're not going to avoid rejection. You're going to absorb it, repurpose it, weaponize it. You're going to use it to push further, faster, and harder than you ever would have without it. And when the world finally says yes, it's going to mean more than it ever could have if they'd agreed from the start. Most people quit too early. That's the real reason they lose. It's not because they weren't talented enough, or smart enough, or even lucky enough. It's because they didn't last long enough. They ran out of patience before they ran out of opportunities. The truth is, if you want to do something extraordinary, you have to outlast everyone. You have to stay in the game longer than anyone else is willing to, even when every part of you is screaming to walk away. When I came back to Apple in 1997, it wasn't glamorous. The company was a mess. We were weeks away from bankruptcy. The product line was scattered. The morale was non-existent. Anyone with sense would have sold off the scraps and moved on. But that's not how you win. You don't win by finding the easiest path. You win by holding on when the market, the press, and sometimes even your people think you're finished. Most people are obsessed with speed. They want quick wins, fast results, instant proof that what they're doing is working. That's fine for small goals. But if you're building something that will outlive you, speed is the wrong metric. Endurance is the metric. Can you keep moving when the excitement fades? Can you keep building when no one is watching? Can you keep showing up when it feels like nothing is working? That's where most people break. And that's exactly where you have to keep going. There's a discipline to staying in the game. It's not just about stubbornness. It's about conserving your energy for the moments that matter, like a runner pacing themselves for a marathon instead of sprinting in the first mile. You have to know when to push, when to rest, and when to let the storm pass. You have to be willing to take a few hits and keep your feet on the ground. Because if you can stay upright long enough, the tide always shifts. The market is brutal. It rewards novelty, then quickly moves on to the next thing. Competitors rise, the spotlight shifts, hype fades. Most people can't handle that dip. They get discouraged and start looking for an exit. But if you can weather that cycle, if you can keep refining, keep improving, keep believing, you eventually outlast the hype and become the standard. That's how the iPod went from being a strange little music player to being synonymous with music itself. We didn't get there because we had the first product. We got there because we kept going while everyone else stopped. Patience doesn't mean sitting still. It means staying alive and relevant long enough for your opportunity to arrive. It means you're always ready. So when the door cracks open, you're in the perfect position to walk through it. If you're gone by then, if you've given up, someone else will take that step, and you'll watch them live the vision you abandoned. I've seen this happen again and again. Competitors with more funding, more talent, more resources, they burn out, they overextend, they collapse under the weight of their urgency. And all I had to do was keep moving. Not faster than them, just longer than them. That's the secret. Outlast them. You don't have to win every battle. You just have to be the last one standing when the war is over. The hard part is that outlasting requires a kind of emotional resilience most people never develop. You have to be able to take years of criticism, months of silence, endless cycles of uncertainty, and still believe. You have to get comfortable with delayed gratification, the kind where you work for something today, knowing you might not see the reward for years. That's where your vision becomes a lifeline. If the vision isn't strong enough, you won't last. You'll crumble under the weight of doubt. When we were developing the original Mac, we faced delay after delay, supply chain issues, software setbacks, budget constraints. It would have been easy to cut corners just to get it out the door. But if we had done that, we would have launched a forgettable product. Instead, we kept going. We endured the delays. We endured the frustration. And when it finally shipped, it wasn't just another computer. It was a statement. That's the difference endurance makes. It transforms an idea from something interesting into something historic. The longer you last, the more the odds shift in your favor. Time wears down your competition, reveals weaknesses in the market, and exposes the flaws in other people's ideas. If you can keep showing up through all of that, you eventually find yourself alone in a space that once felt crowded, and in that moment, you own it completely. Endurance is not glamorous. No one celebrates the late nights where nothing works, the months where progress feels invisible, the years where all you have is the belief that one day it will pay off. But those are the moments that separate the people who make history from the people who make excuses. The ones who win are not always the ones who move the fastest. They're the ones who refuse to leave the arena, no matter how long the fight takes. Everything I've told you today isn't about gadgets or companies or even success as the world defines it. It's about becoming the kind of person who can bend the world in your direction. You control the vision so tightly that chaos can't shake you. You distort reality until belief becomes fact. You take every rejection and turn it into the fuel that powers you further. And when the noise fades, you are still standing because you refuse to leave the game. This is not the clean, polished side of leadership. This is the raw, unfiltered side. The part no one teaches because it's uncomfortable, and it forces you to look at power in a way that might scare you. But if you're willing to embrace it, you won't just build products or companies. You'll build a life that cannot be ignored. And once you see the world through that lens, you'll never be the same again.